Hey guys, welcome to Tuesday Training Tips. Today we're going to be working on 3 different self-defense options from the closed guard. Now, our most recent Tuesday Training Tip video, we went over the arm bar, so if you're looking for that, go check that video out. We're going to be working on some other stuff for today's video. Let's get started. All right, we're bringing the camera in close today. So let's get started first with our triangle choke. Now, when we're working from the guard, a couple important things to remember if we're defending ourselves. First of all, if possible, we want to not be in this position. Even if we're comfortable on the ground, it's always going to be a disadvantage for us if we're on our back. Keep in mind that when we're defending ourselves, this guy can do anything they want. It's not like a competition where there's a certain set of rules that need to be followed. In this case today, we're going to say the other guy is trying to strike us from the guard. So the first thing that I need to do is make sure I'm not going to get punched in the face, make sure my head is not slamming into the concrete. So I'm going to make sure that I keep my chin up and I'm going to cover my head. Keep in mind too, when we cover, we don't want to be covering our eyes. We need to be able to see what's going on. So don't have your hands too tight right here. Make sure you can see. And my hands are mobile from here. They're not anchored to myself so that if the other guy tries to do something else, my hands are always free to move and react. Second thing I want to do is make sure I keep a nice tight guard here. If my guard is lazy, they might be trying to step over my legs, get into a mount or some other more dominant position, which is going to make things harder for me. And then finally, we need to keep in mind that it's a lot harder to deal with this guy if they have a good, strong base. If they're postured up with all their weight centered, they're going to have a much easier time getting power behind their strikes, and they're going to be able to move around, do things like that. So we need to break down their posture first. The way we're going to do that in this case, if the other guy is trying to hit us, we're going to pull our knees in towards our chest as hard as we can, slip our head off to the side so we don't collide with them, and as we pull them in, we're going to use our hands to hug tight. Kind of depends on where the other person moves, where your hands are going to go. Sometimes you may end up with both hands going behind the head. Sometimes you may end up in more of a seatbelt kind of position, one over, one under. Just grab on and hold tight, okay? Now, from here, this person generally is not just gonna sit there and let me do whatever I want. They might be trying to posture back up. They might be trying to hit me in the body or continue to aim for my head from there. Might be trying to headbutt me. There are a lot of different choices. So we're gonna react accordingly. If this other person is trying to posture back up and maybe they're like pushing down on our face or something like that, our triangle may not be the best choice. We may need to go for something else. But if they're in this position and they continue to try and strike us, now we're going to use that to help us set up our triangle. So the first thing we need to do from here is isolate one of their arms. Remember, for a triangle, we want one arm in and one arm out. So a lot of times this person from this point, especially if I have both hands over the top like this, they're unable to hit my head, they start going for my body. And that's what I'm going to count on here. When they go for this strike to the body, I'm going to get my hand in there and block it. Just use your knife hand right on the inside of their bicep. Grab tight. You can slide down towards the wrist if you need to, but you're going to be pushing this arm back as you pull your knee in. You might not get your knee in on the first try, as in you might not get it all the way out. As long as you can get your shin in front of their bicep to start with, that's a good beginning, because now your leg here prevents this hand from reaching your head. From that point, then I can extend more and kick my leg out. Once I have this leg kicked out, very important that I need to try and close my guard back up again, okay? If I'm just here with this leg out and my legs are not doing anything active, they're gonna get out. So make sure as soon as you get to this point, cross your feet again, okay? Once I have my feet crossed again, now I can start to adjust and get my triangle into a better position. Again, just be wary of whatever they may be trying to do with their hands at any time. Keep that in mind, okay? So once I get to this point here, my leg that's underneath their arm still is gonna go on the hip and I'm gonna push off. Very important though, when I take this hand down, or take this leg down, it needs to be replaced by my hand right away. Because again, anytime that I'm opening up my guard here, I'm giving this other guy a chance to escape. So when I'm in this position, I'm gonna control my shin first with my hand, then bring this foot down. Now I still have this locked up. I'm gonna push off of this hip and shift my shoulders because I wanna get this leg nice and high, kind of like a butterfly stretch. I want my knee turned out this way a little bit, okay? Once I get to here, now this leg that's doing the triangle can come back over. And when we triangle, we go shin to the back of our knee, not our calf and not on our instep or our toes, or you will hurt yourself. Okay? Get it locked in nice and tight and keep your toes curled back so that it creates like a little edge that prevents your leg from sliding off that way. Once we're here then, we can try to finish from this position, or we can bridge our hips up, grab this hand, cross it over. I would strongly recommend that second option just to prevent this guy from trying to bite you. Okay? If we're defending ourselves, we bring this hand across, kind of blocks their face a little bit. That way they're not gonna be able to get their teeth on me. And it also helps me to close up some of this space here on this triangle. A couple other things I can do to make this triangle a little bit tighter. I can bring this knee in as well. So instead of having my legs really wide like this and trying to squeeze, I kind of shift my feet out to the side a little bit more so that I can really cinch that down. A final and super important note that you cannot forget is that anytime you get your legs wrapped around a person like this, especially if it's someone who's bigger, stronger, which is usually the case if you're defending yourself, there's always the risk of them trying to pick you up and slam you. And in that case, we have to be really wary, because if we're defending ourselves, even if it's on a soft surface like this, you see it all the time in MMA fights, people get knocked out even from getting slammed into a padded mat kind of surface. If that happens on the concrete, that could be enough that could even kill you if that happens. So we need to make sure we don't get slammed. We have two options to avoid that slam. Number one is to anchor ourselves to the person's leg. So if I feel them starting to stand up and I'm getting the sense that they may try and pick me up, I'm gonna take my arm and I'm gonna go under their leg and hook it. Because when I'm hooked to their leg, they can't lift me off the floor. The second option is to release the triangle. Just let it go and switch to kicking instead and using your feet to create space and keep this person away from you. But the last thing that you wanna do is hold on and let this person lift you way up in the air, because you will be going down and you will be going down hard. All right, so option number two is gonna be our hip bump sweep. We're gonna knock this guy over on his back so we get into a mount and can follow up with strikes or any other kind of control from there. So step one again is gonna be the same. We're gonna make sure we're covering our head, chin is up, and legs tight. Step two, also the same. We're going to break this guy's posture. We're going to pull them in, okay? So now, like I mentioned in the last clip, when we were talking about the triangle, one of the options, one of the reactions from this guy is that they might try and sit back up. And that's what we're gonna use as our setup for the hip bump. The triangle is good if this other guy stays low, keeps their head close to me. But if they start trying to pull away like this, going for the triangle is not always gonna be the best option. They might throw my legs off to the side, get past me. So when this guy goes to try and fight me and try to sit up, I'm gonna let that happen, because I'm going to follow their momentum. I'm gonna follow the action that they are initiating. As they're sitting back this way, the harder that they sit up and jerk back, the easier it's gonna be for me to knock them over, because I'm trying to take this guy with the hip bump sweep towards the back corner over there, okay? So I'm pulling down tight. I'm pulling down on this guy's head, making him fight me, making him fight me. When he goes to sit up, very important, I am going to open my guard here, because I need to be able to scooch my hips out a little bit as I sit up and get into position. If I keep my guard closed like this when I come up here, I'm not gonna be able to do the hip bump sweep from this position. Sometimes it's hard to sit up from there too. So from this point, I'm pulling down, the other guy goes to sit up, I'm gonna plant my feet. As my feet plant, I'm going to chop my arm forward to help me get some momentum as I sit up, and I'm chopping to the opposite side of their head. So if I'm sweeping to my left side, my right arm is gonna chop over. If I'm sweeping to the right, then my left arm chops over. So I chop and sit up. When I sit up, my shoulder comes in close, or my chest comes in close rather to their shoulder, my other hand posts behind, and I'm gonna control this arm right here. This is the arm that they wanna post with to try and keep themselves upright. So I need to hold on to this and make sure that doesn't happen. And then to finish, just like a crab walk, I'm gonna lift my hips off the floor using my feet in my hand. But again, I'm not going straight to the side. I'm not going straight forward. I'm going kind of like a 45-degree angle almost, because that's gonna be the direction that's gonna be hardest for them to fight and to balance. So I come up here, hips are up, drive in and over, turn, and get up on top. All right guys, so for our last technique here, you can see that our attacker now has a nice hoodie on. So we're gonna use this to help us out. And we're gonna apply our X choke. Now we can do an X choke without the hoodie. They have the t-shirt, but there's a bigger risk of the shirt ripping or me not being able to get the grip that I need and so on. So the hood is really nice because it gives us this big thing to anchor ourselves to. And since it's thick, there's a lot of fabric here. The chance of it tearing and you losing what you're trying to do is pretty low. So once again, from here, we're gonna cover up, make sure our chin is up, pull the other guy in using our legs and our arms. Once we get to here, we're gonna get control of the hood. Whether it's on them or not, we should be able to use our hands to get control right here. Make sure we're holding tightly. My other hand, the one that's not controlling this hood, is gonna make sure to wrap up their arm, okay? I'm gonna use my elbow to squeeze and feed my hand underneath. So right now, my hand is kinda in front of their neck and their chest right here. I want my thumb facing up a little bit, palm in. If I go the other way, if I go with my palm out, I don't have the same range of motion here, and I'm not gonna get the grip that I want for my choke. This hand that's controlling the hood is going to feed the hood into my hand. So I'm not gonna keep reaching up as far as I can with this one that's entangled. I'm gonna pull the hood down to it and get this grip as deep as I can. Grab it like you're grabbing a baseball bat, right here. Last step, this hand that just fed the hood is now gonna be anchoring on the other side of their neck to finish the choke. So I'm gonna shift my shoulders, chop down hard. Remember, you're defending yourself, don't be afraid to strike, but that chop also helps you to ensure that you get this nice and deep right here. Anchor by just grabbing a bunch of fabric right here at the shoulder, and then I start to pull my elbows outward, and I crunch up a little bit to keep everything nice and tight, make sure they can't sit up. One word warning when you're using a choke to defend yourself, you have to really pay attention to how long you're holding it because we don't want to be causing serious issues for this person. I'm gonna hold it just until they go limp and I feel that I can get out of there safely. So I'm gonna make sure that I'm paying attention and watching their reaction as I'm doing this choke. Once they stop reacting, they're limp, they're unconscious, I'm going to first release the choke right away. I'll take them off of me and I'll make sure as I take them off, I'm controlling their head. I'm holding on because I don't need to let their head drop and smack into the ground when they're unconscious. And then right away, we're gonna make sure we call 911 for emergency assistance to make sure that everything is documented, what happened, and to make sure this person is okay. All right guys, so those are just 3 additional options that you can use to defend yourself from the guard. Again, keep in mind, you can still use the arm bar like we did last week. You can still use your kicks and things like that. These are just a couple additional choices. As always, make sure you're practicing at home on your own. And if you ever have any questions, let us know when you come to class.